It's PRESSCORE, people. I'm David Cruz. We're about to enter another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind, a journey into a wondrous land of imagination. Next stop, budget season. We'll bring the panel in to further complicate the plot right after this.
Hey, we're taking a break from the show to remind you that when you like, subscribe, and share this content, you're helping us build an audience for independent journalism. Thanks for streaming. Let's get back to the program.
Here's the PRESSCORE panel submitted for your approval. Larry Higgs gets all the Twilight Zone references. He's the transportation and commuting reporter for NJ.com. Aliya Schneider got none of the references. She covers New Jersey and Pennsylvania for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And Charles Stile is the political columnist for NorthJersey.com, who remembers the Twilight Zone as a radio program. All right.
That's
panel.
cheap. That's really cheap.
It was. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Panel, welcome to you all. Let's start with the national news. The president fired Kristi Noem as Homeland Security Secretary. Charles, she seemed to demonstrate the requisite callousness for these deporting times. Was she too good at cheerleading?
She was. I think she was fine until she publicly became a liability that was affecting Republicans and Republican districts. I mean, it's things that didn't get a lot of attention. For example, slow delivery of FEMA aid, 9-10 months of FEMA aid to Republican districts that had already been, that took forever to get approved. And it wasn't just one, there were dozens. And I think that was sort of like the brush fire underneath it. And she was in one controversy and another. And I think the last week when she said that, Trump approved her $200 million, self-aggrandizing, self-promoting budget. And he goes and tells Reuters, no, I don't know anything about it. I think that you can almost hear the trapdoor open underneath her. Yeah. So, I think, we got a new guy coming in, and this will give Andy Kim a mulligan, basically. Didn't he? He actually voted to approve her nomination.
Right.
Which came up to haunt him in the recent hearings in Trenton.
Yeah. One of those rare occasions when somebody was critical of Andy Kim.
Yes, rare. Yep.
All right. In the middle of a war seems like an odd time to bump the Homeland Security chief, but here we are. And the war I'm speaking of course, is Iran. And the regular people we talk to about this, not the ones in office necessarily, they say, oi, gas prices. Larry, has it started to hit people at the pump or with home heating costs?
Oh, yes, it absolutely started hitting people at the pump. And, home heating oil really is going to take the biggest hit because it's almost the same thing as diesel fuel. And there's first of all, it's an expensive fuel to begin with, but it's in demand because all your Amazon packages are coming on some kind of a diesel powered vehicle, a truck, a train. And, the biggest problem that we have is not so much the influence of Iranian oil on the market, but petroleum experts have said you have all those tankers sitting in the Straits of Hormuz, and they don't want to move because they're afraid of being attacked. So they've just dropped anchor and said, we're not going anywhere. And those 3 million barrels of gallons of oil on each tanker are just sitting there.
Yeah, the things that happen when you start warring, right? Aliya, Governor Shapiro, he's the governor in Pennsylvania, a Democrat, not surprisingly condemning the war, but no mention of Israel's role, which is something that I've seen from a lot of other elected officials here who have condemned the war. Progressives are on the rise in the party, and they're no friends of Israel and their efforts from Gaza to Tehran. You expect that the issue will be a part of the debate with, say, Republican Joe Hathaway and Analia Mejia?
Yeah, so to your first point, Governor Josh Shapiro, the governor in Pennsylvania, he did denounce Trump doing this without congressional approval, but he also did say, Iran should not have nuclear weapons, and he put out a pretty lengthy statement and did not mention Israel at all. It's, I think, a bit of a touchy subject for the governor, who is a supporter of Israel as a Jewish state. He has faced pushback from Pennsylvanians who, have had taken issue with Israel. But he's also been critical of Netanyahu, and it's not like he's defending things that Netanyahu has done. But it definitely is one of those topics that Shapiro has had to navigate as someone who is a Democrat, but he also does a lot of working across the aisle, and he's also someone who his Jewish faith is really important to him, and so is Israel.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second part about Mejia and Hathaway, I do think this will be an issue in the race. I don't know how much it'll matter in terms of the outcome of this race, given how blue the district is. Um, and just given how public opinion has changed over the years on Israel. But I don't think the issue is going to go away. And we have seen Hathaway put out statements just generally in support of Israel in the past. And we've seen Mejia be very critical, definitely on kind of the more progressive end of being pretty critical of Israel. So it will surely come up. I think the question is, how
How
much, who's
much?
going to get involved, and how much will it matter?
Yeah. Charlie, this has implications for state and local politics, of course, with Israel so involved. This war powers vote died in the House.
Mhm.
I'm assuming all the Republicans were a no. You wrote about Josh Gottheimer's fine line that he's walking on this as well this week, no?
Yes. Yes. He surprisingly last night actually voted in favor of it. He had been um, publicly denouncing the resolution as
Yeah.
either premature or inappropriate while they were still negotiating. It was going to, and if it was enforced, in theory, if it was enforced and Trump was forced to put the brakes on his effort, it would have put soldiers already deployed into harm's way. So he was basically taking the pro-Trump administration talking points. But last night he pivoted and he felt, and he said in his statement that while he still supports the overall quote unquote decisive action and tearing down the regime of Iran, he felt that they have not been clear in their objectives, their plans, and he wants more clarity. So yes, hey, he joined the team. He joined the Hakeem Jeffries team,
What
which was
about
a quick pivot.
What about in the 11th? We just saw the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, APAC, drop $2 million in the primary, hoping to get someone friendlier to Israel. Now they got Aliya Mejia. Um, she's in that race. I assume that APAC isn't going to sit it out. And then you've also got in Hudson County where Musab Ali is kind of calling out Rob Menendez for taking APAC money as well.
Well, I think APAC has kind of signaled that they're more interested if they're going to play again in that district, meaning the 11th district,
Yeah,
uh, in the June primary. I don't think they're going to invest in a
not in that
lost cause
general.
in the special election. And the interesting about APAC in that race is that they never disclosed their real intention, which
Yeah,
was to harm Malinowski, who they thought was insufficiently supportive of Israel. So I don't know. I think it'll be very, very interesting whether they're going to spend money, um, at all. Frankly, as you mentioned, this is, or I think Aliya mentioned this is a blue district. So we'll see what their strategic end game is. I think one thing, though, finally, I would say even though they took down Malinowski, who was the purported front runner in that 11th district special election, um, they may have succeeded in a broader kind of way in frightening other moderates who might be trying to put some space between themselves and Israel. I don't know. That's very hard to measure.
it'll be interesting
In
to
other
watch
moderates
that.
around the country,
Yeah.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch that in other primaries, as you said, around the country. Meanwhile, on the home front, the state budget is what we're going to be talking about all next week, probably. Larry, NJ Transit, always a big part of the budget debate. This is your beat. What Sherrill does with NJ Transit in this first budget will tell a lot about what she plans for NJ Transit. No, or is it too early to determine that?
Well, this is kind of an interesting budget season because this is going to be the second season where we have the corporate transit fee, which is funding NJ Transit's operating budget. And that's always been the wild card because in the past, it's been strictly dependent on whatever the governor gives it. If the governor gives it a lot, you're safe from a fare hike. The governor doesn't, you're looking at a fare hike. The other side of that coin is that NJ Transit now has, for better or for worse, depending on what side of the commuter you're on, a 3% automatic fare increase. They'll make the governor's job a little easier, unless, and here's the temptation and the wild card, that corporate transit fee is not entirely dedicated to NJ Transit. There are some carve outs to go to other things. And I mean, there is a temptation there to give them a little less.
Yeah.
Say, tighten your belts.
Interesting. All right. So I guess we'll see what she says about that in her budget speech, which happens next week on Tuesday, I'm going to say. Charles, everybody says something's got to give. Stay NJ, anchor program. But now you got Republicans saying if you kill either one of those, you're basically raising taxes. And this is a governor who said no new taxes.
Well, they will use some of the surplus, and I think killing the program is not likely to happen. I think what you're going to see is modifications to the program, tightening of the eligibility, the income eligibility, for example, go from maybe like $500,000 income to say maybe 250, maybe even less.
Yeah.
So that it's more concentrated to lower middle class homeowners instead of wealthier ones. Maybe you cap the total payout at $4,500 rather than $6,500. So there's ways to keep the program intact, a smaller program. But I really do think if the Sherrill administration, facing the dire fiscal forecast that they put out, is really accurate about that, I think this is the year that they have to do it. Because if they don't touch Stay NJ, it then becomes in perpetuity a $1.2 billion program. And so might as well get the pain out of the way now of change rather than wait later.
Right. Aliya, is this your first New Jersey budget?
Yeah, it's my first time covering a New Jersey budget, yes.
You saw the reaction of your colleagues there. Has anybody yet warned you about how crazy it can get here?
I mean, it's a state
Well, we're
budget,
doing that right
so
now. So.
I'm assuming it's going to be crazy. I mean, I'm kind of expecting that. I can't say I've gotten any like particular warnings, but I guess this is
He's
that.
got it.
She's got it handled. Does it get crazy like this in Pennsylvania?
I mean, yeah, so I mean the budget was crazy in Pennsylvania, so maybe that's why I'm just expecting that the budget's going to be crazy. We are am I freezing? Oh, sorry.
No.
I'm back. Okay.
You're
My computer froze for a
good.
second.
They had their budget.
Yes.
Their budget season is June. Their fiscal year is June 30 to July 1. Yes. And,
Yes.
And so their budget is supposed to be done by June 30, but
it was supposed to be done by June 30th, and it was not done until November.
Ow.
So yeah, our Senate is led by Republicans. Our House is led by Democrats. Governor Shapiro, Democrat, but who also likes to work across the aisle. And I mean, really, he had no choice because you need the upper chamber.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of finger pointing. Transit was a big issue, especially in Philly. And I think it wasn't like one thing, but there were different points in the news cycle over the months where it felt like it might have been one thing or two things or three things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, budgets were always my favorite topics to hate to cover. Luckily, I worked with John Reitmeyer, the budget
So did
guru
I.
at NJ Spotlight. So I would just ask him to write my stories for me. That's how I survived.
I used to kid around. I sat next to him at the Bergen Record, and I would just say, "Can I just have a USB cord and stick it into the side of your
Right.
neck so you can download everything?" So
Yeah.
why bother calling anybody? The guy really just knows everything, and he can put it in context.
Yeah, big shout out to John Reitmeyer. That said, let me drop in a plug for this week's Hold That Thought, streaming right now. Republican Senate Budget Officer Declan O'Scanlan says, "I told you so," and has other suggestions for the governor on her upcoming budget. Hold That Thought is streaming right now on our YouTube channel.
I'm going to look at it.
All right, lawmakers will take up these ICE-related bills, I assume, by their next session, which, I don't know, I think is on the 23rd of this month. Staging on state property, wearing masks, sharing data, etc. Larry, in those Jersey City arrests up near you from a few weeks ago, ICE was on NJ Transit property. That whole issue has come up at agency meetings, has it not? Did they have an answer about that?
Well, and it did come up, and it was kind of a surprise because, there were 10 people who spoke about it, which is a decent amount of people who are showing up off the cuff, not organized. And they basically had the same thing. They wanted NJ Transit to ban ICE agents from boarding buses, boarding trains, and getting on NJ Transit property. Chris Calori, the CEO, had a very succinct answer because it was the same day the governor's executive order came out, and that was, we're following the executive order. But of course, the devil is in the details on how they would do that. And this is what some of the speakers asked for. What instructions are you going to give your frontline agencies, such as a bus driver who's confronted by ICE agents coming on board the bus demanding entry, which means the bus is going to stop. Those people are going to get delayed. Every bus behind it is going to get delayed. And the question that was brought up was, will they follow the policy that Greyhound has? Greyhound, because they have a lot of buses that travel across the border in the southern part of the United States, they basically require a written judicial warrant to be shown to the driver before the driver admits them to the bus. So this is the stuff that has to be hashed out.
Interesting. Charles, Kim and Booker have a bill out that would prevent Homeland Security from using taxpayer money to buy or to use warehouse to detain non-citizens. That's really kind of symbolic, but it does keep the ICE issue alive for Democrats politically who feel strictly on a political level that this is a winning issue for them, yeah?
No question about it. If you look at the poll numbers for particularly Donald Trump's immigration policies, they continue to nosedive, and driving it mostly is the performance of ICE and the reign of terror that it's brought to Minneapolis. And I think a lot of people, even moderates, look at that, independents particularly look at that and are repulsed.
Yeah.
So the more you can bring that up, the better, nationally as well, especially here in New Jersey, and especially in issue areas like the 7th Congressional District, which leans Republican, and Trump carried it by 1 point. Now you have this $130 million gulag being planned in Roxbury, and it is just, which is a Republican town that Trump carried by 14 points. It is just really become a hot spot, a flashpoint for the whole debate.
And
so
that's
it doesn't help Tom Kean at all.
I was just going to say, that's his district, and he's got enough problems with the gateway funding.
Right. Donald Trump is maybe, if he has a strategy to hold the House in the midterms, Tom Kean apparently is not part of the plan.
Yes. Aliya, Governor Sherrill was asked about this proposal to tax these ICE gulags, as Charlie put it. Did you see her in Deptford recently and got asked about it? Yeah.
I asked her about it.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
Some reporter out there asked her about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
someone asked her
some
that.
annoying reporter. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, someone really annoying. Yeah, no, she was in Deptford visiting a bakery. It was they announced it as like a save you time and money tour or something like
Right.
that. But there was a press gaggle, which I always appreciate, and so I asked her about whether she supports a tax for privately run ice facilities, and that was based on a bill that's in the legislature that would do that. And the governor often says she does not comment on pending legislation, but I
No,
didn't technically ask about the bill. I was just asking her opinion on that. And she said some various things about how she opposes Roxbury, and I kind of pushed a little bit. And she said, everything's on the table, something along those
Right.
lines of, you know,
not
not
another governor that says, I'm not going to comment on bills that are in the
Yeah.
legislature, or
Except when it serves
everything
their
is on the
purpose.
table. Please,
I mean,
away from the past.
I prefer, to me, that's more of an answer than I don't comment on pending legislation, which is
Yeah,
what we
yeah,
get a lot.
yeah.
And so to me, her responding to me specifically pushing about the taxing thing is like, she's not ruling that out. Like, yes, she's not taking a stance per se, but she's also not declining to comment fully. Like
Yeah.
it's to me, that's a hint of, yes, it's not answering the question in the most ideal way because it's still like a question mark, but to me, that's better than just I'm not commenting on pending legislation. That
Yeah.
it's on the table to me that indicates it's something that she's at least considering or thinking about, which, it would be nice to have a more concrete answer, but I'd also it was
Well,
something. It was
That's as
something more
con
than I'm not commenting.
that's as
it's a,
concrete an answer as you're going to get on that. Go ahead,
well,
Charles.
just broadly speaking, though, I think I know Murphy approached it, Phil Murphy approached it this way. I think they miss an opportunity by not commenting on a bill, especially one that's got a lot of public attention. I think they miss an opportunity to shape the debate going forward in the legislature. I just
Yeah.
think playing it safe means I'm going behind closed doors and I'm not going to include you in it. But as the governor, you have that pulpit to drive it. And we're here to listen and record it and participate in the process. But by saying, I don't comment on legislation all the time. Just, I think does a disservice to the public and to themselves.
Larry, let's move on here. I think we beat that budget to death. Uh, the governor's Newark Bay Bridge decision. Can you explain it and why everybody's cheering it?
Well, it was kind of a surprise because, you had advocates, 65 environmental groups and civic groups that sent Sherrill a letter saying we support the one bridge option, which is basically instead of building two bridges with 4 lanes each across Newark Bay, we want one bridge. Okay. And you can basically, either 4 lanes or 6 lanes. And it was kind of a surprise because she went with the smallest bridge possible, which was basically one bridge, 4 lanes with shoulders.
Yeah.
So that was a big surprise. And it was kind of interesting because in her statement, because obviously there were a lot of labor unions that were in favor of this because two bridges, lots of jobs. And she basically made it very clear to say, look, we're going to have 19,000 good jobs come out of this bridge anyway. They've got like 19 support structures that carry this thing across the bay that
Yeah.
have to be rebuilt. So for the opposition, which included mayors James Solomon of Jersey City and Ross Baraka of Newark, this is a big win.
Yeah, agreed. Charlie, it didn't look like this was possible 2 years ago when we started getting these protests from environmentalists and so on. This is a big win for them, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, if you talk to, say, a newly minted Assemblywoman Katie Brennan and Ravi Bala, they ran they ran against the
Yeah,
bigger project, and it was an important piece of their platform. And I think on the ground, the politics are really not in favor of the larger project. But I also think this shows is an important indicator of how Sherrill is going to govern, and maybe with her budget, and that is she's going to find a sort of a middle ground or an option that doesn't entirely please labor, but is enough, or it doesn't apply. In this case, with the budget, she'll get enough of. She's not going to get a complete consensus, but she'll try to find a half loaf that will work.
Yeah, it's kind of
I
like
thought that was kind of interesting.
it's kind of like telling the union, "Hey, look, there are 19,000 jobs here. Let's not look
Correct.
that gift horse in the mouth."
Correct. And there's other transit projects in Hudson County that we
Yeah.
could deploy people to. This isn't just a one-off.
Right. All right, home stretch here. This is where we keep all the important questions. The company behind the most earwormy, creepy, annoying commercial ever, and I'm going to insert it here.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids.
They're facing a class action lawsuit having to do with fraud, etc. But my question is, what is the appropriate penalty for foisting this damn commercial on us? Larry?
I would suggest that all the executives and power brokers at that entity should be put in a room, and that commercial should be put on an endless loop for 24 hours. And let's see what happens when they come out the other side.
Nice. Aliya, you must be familiar with 1-877. Yes?
Yeah.
What is the appropriate punishment for somebody sticking that in our heads?
I think Larry's onto something.
That's a good one, right? I like that too. Charlie, it was, and I think it still is, on every Yankee or Mets radio broadcast. This assault should not go unpunished.
I
Am
mean,
I
Cars
correct?
for Kids?
Yeah.
Oh, please. I shut that radio off immediately. I've been doing this for years, actually. As soon as it comes on, I cut it off, or I go to another station. It's just really and who are these people?
It is actually, it's actually a pretty kind of serious class action lawsuit that charges that the defendants used those 1-800-77 blah blah donations to fund a separate entity called URA and its promotion of Orthodox ideology to Jewish families in New York and New Jersey. They also used the vast majority of the donations to fund their own significant expenses and investments. That's what the feds are alleging in this class.
Under the auspices of helping, kids charity.
Yes.
Mm.
All right. PRESSCORE is done on that Charlie style. PRESSCORE is done for the week. Aliya, Larry, Charles, good to see you all, and thank you. And thanks to all of you for streaming, liking, and subscribing. I'm David Cruz. We'll see you next week.